Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a question that sounds like it's straight out of a philosophy class, but is actually rooted in science, language, and perception. Can a color exist if we don't have a name for it? It's a real brain bender, but stick with me, because we're about to explore the fascinating world of colors that technically, on paper, don't have a name. So, let's start with a simple thought experiment. Picture the color red? Easy, right? Now, picture blue. Also easy. But what about the color that asterisk halfway between the specific shade of a summer sky and the deep blue of a sapphire? Getting trickier, isn't it? Our brains and our language are fantastic at creating categories. Red, green, blue. Yellow, these are the big buckets we use to sort the infinite spectrum of light that our eyes can perceive. But what happens in the gaps? What about all those subtle in-between shades that we just don't have a common word for? This is where things get really interesting. Our eyes can distinguish between millions. Some say up to 10 million different colors. That's a staggering number. But how many color names do we actually use in everyday conversation? Maybe a few dozen if we're being generous, and include things like mauve, teal, and chartreuse. This massive gap between what we can see and what we can say is where our unnamed colors live. They are not invisible. They are just linguistically homeless. Think about it this way. Before the word orange existed in the English language, what did people call the color of the fruit? Well, they often described it as yellow-red. The color was always there. People could see it and point to it, but it didn't have its own unique one-word identity. The name came later, borrowed from the fruit itself. This shows us that language evolves to meet our descriptive needs. But with millions of colors, it's just not practical to have a unique name for every single one. So, where do we find these unnamed colors? Everywhere. They're in the subtle gradient of a sunset, the intricate patterns on a butterfly's wing, or the shifting tones of light on water. Artists and designers are masters of this world. They don't just see green. They see olive, sage, mint, lime, forest, and 100 other variations that might not have a dictionary entry. They often have to invent their own descriptions or rely on complex color-mixing formulas, like Pantone codes, to communicate a specific shade. A code like Pantone 17 to 5104 Ultimate Gray is essentially a name, but it's a technical one, not a common word you'd use to describe your friend's new sweater. Now, let's talk about the science behind this. Color isn't a physical property of an object. It's our brain's interpretation of different wavelengths of light hitting our retinas. The retina has cone cells that are sensitive to red, green, and blue light. Your brain then mixes these signals like a painter, mixes paints to create every color you see. Since these signals can be combined in countless proportions, the number of potential color sensations is virtually infinite. Our language simply hasn't caught up, and probably never will. A fascinating example of this is from different cultures. Some languages have fewer basic color terms than English. For instance, the Himba people of Namibia don't have separate words for blue and green, but they have multiple distinct words for different shades of what we would just call green. Does this mean they can't see blue? Not at all. Studies have shown they can physically distinguish the colors just fine, but they categorize them differently. Their language carved up the color spectrum in a way that was more relevant to their environment. To them, a specific shade of green that we don't have a word for might be as distinct as red is to us. This leads us to the concept of impossible colors, also known as forbidden colors. These are colors that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of how our eyes work. For example, because of how our cone cells are wired, we see a color that is both reddish-green or yellowish-blue at the same time in the same spot. When you mix red and green light, you get yellow. But what if you could stimulate the red and green cones simultaneously without them canceling each other out? Some lab experiments have claimed to achieve this, creating a perception of a color that participants struggled to describe a truly nameless hue. So, Do these unnamed colors really matter? Absolutely. They are a testament to the richness and complexity of our world. They push us to look closer, to be more observant, and to appreciate the subtle beauty that often gets lost in our broad linguistic categories. They remind us that our perception of reality is shaped by our language, but not limited by it. The universe of color is far vaster than our vocabulary. Next time you're outside, take a moment to really look at something: a leaf, a stone, a patch of sky. Try to see beyond the simple names. Notice the tiny variations, the subtle shifts in hue and tone. You'll be looking at colors that have no name, but are every bit as real and beautiful as the ones that do. You're seeing the world in its full, high definition, unedited glory. It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That there are still mysteries to be found in something as common as color. It's a whole spectrum of unnamed wonders, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for a curious eye to find them. These are the colors that artists chase, that scientists study, and that all of us get to experience every single day, whether we have the words for them or not. They exist in the silence between our words, in the pure act of seeing. Thank you so much for joining me on this colorful journey today. I hope it gave you a new appreciation for the incredible world of color that surrounds us. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more fascinating topics like this one, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps us out a lot. Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever seen a color you just couldn't describe? I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, keep looking closer and stay curious.